Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. Hitler faked his death and then escaped. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, and it is a bright and early morning with Brett.
Man of many tastes.
The man of many tastes. This should be pretty interesting. We got coffees going. It's never too early to talk about conspiracy theories.
Nope, never ever.
Oh, yeah. French press coffee with a bit of rum in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's never too early to discuss some conspiracy theories, and I thought this would be pretty interesting. So we're back again. When this comes out, the Halloween season is now over. So everybody, if you haven't checked out the Halloween special, make sure to go check that out. It is quite funny. We had Slender Man-Child make an appearance.
AKA Billy.
Yes, Slender Billy. So this should be kind of interesting. I wanted to start to get into more in depth into the conspiracy side of stuff, or the truth. Depends how you look at it. But I've had a lot of ideas of getting really in depth with some of the lore around like Freemasons and secret societies. The other night I just wrote out a deep episode about secret societies, so that should be pretty interesting. And that's one that a bunch of us could kind of rally in on because it's pretty interesting. But I found some like crazy information that, and I said this on a video kind of thing for the fans of the show, is that, I want to start really diving into some of the deep, going down the rabbit hole and getting deep into the conspiracy theory side of things. And, that some of it could be true. Some of it might be slightly true, and some might not be true at all. It depends how you kind of look at things, right?
That's why it's called conspiracy.
I know, exactly. But then they coined the term conspiracy theory to discredit people, right? Because the word conspiracy has always been around, but it's a conspiracy theory, and then it kind of like, I do believe that it was coined by the CIA to like discredit people, and people claim that this or that.
I feel like that goes with Hollywood too. When there's ever a theory out there, they put it in the movie. It's like, oh, you can't say that. That wasn't a movie. Like, yeah,
I know. Then they definitely do that. There's that movie that recently came out. It was called, I haven't watched it yet, but I'd like to. It's called They Cloned Tyrone. And it's funny. I think Jamie Foxx is in it, and now there's all these theories that Jamie Foxx was cloned because he's like he looks different. He's like a different skin color, and his eyes are a little more apart, and some weird stuff, man. And everything that we get into, like on the intro, right? Like the intro song is like they clone celebrities, which eventually we'll get into an episode about that. I kind of want to branch off and do a bunch of stuff like that. So I wanted to talk about Albert Pike and the predictions of the 3 world wars, considering what's going on now.
Yeah.
And I have talks to get into an episode about the Khazarian Mafia, which is people may not be able to handle. Some people might not be able to handle that one because it gets into some anti-Semitic territory. But I am not really trusting what's going on with this war on either side. But when everyone rallies to one team, I'm kind of more skeptical of that team, so to speak,
It's funny how everyone's like jumping on the Palestinian side simultaneously.
Yeah, but even there, it is weird that like it's been kind of split, where then you have a lot of the right wingers like on Israel's side, and then you have a lot of the leftists on Palestinian side. But like someone that I go towards when it comes to information about this stuff is Immortal Technique. He's a famous rapper, or should be more famous than he is, and he actually like stopped really rapping to go to the third world and to help people and to actually be a revolutionarist like he said he was going to be. And I do think both sides have committed and are complicit in war crimes, but people don't realize how deep this history goes. And now, like, I don't try to focus on one group or the other. But there's some very shady shit that the Israeli government has done to the Palestinians on both sides are.
That's basically the entirety of the Bible. I don't know if you
know.
know that.
Yeah, it's not good, right? They kept children in detention centers, and abuse happened. There's a lot of like really dark aspects of that whole conflict. And there's good people and bad people on both sides. That's how it works. People get radicalized, and I did a video where I was like, if you're radicalized to believe that your beliefs are the ones that are like better, that if you really believe in what you are fighting for, then you might die for that belief. And then if you've been brainwashed or conditioned to believe in what you believe in, and you're going to die for it, then there's no, like, then both sides are just going to keep killing each other. I liked Luke Rukowski's quote, which when this all came out, and he was like, the killing of innocent people does not justify the killing of innocent people. So mostly if people understand how warfare works, it is the majority of people that was murdered even in World War I and II were a lot of innocent civilians.
It's true.
It's collateral damage for like a war, and I think if people are for because there's people that are on the right that are like very for Israel and being like, well, they got attacked, so they have the right to defend themselves. And I'm like, to an extent, yeah, I guess, but you can't be just indiscriminately bombing Gaza when innocent people and children, there's like all these children that are, getting massacred and stuff like that on both sides, but specifically in Palestine, because they were just dropping bombs like nothing. And it's funny because I just released one of my songs, my older songs, and I was like, millions dead in Gaza as the Western world just sits back in laughter. And it's just kind of funny because I wrote this like in 2013. I like produced it and released it or whatever. And so I decided to put it on Spotify and YouTube Music. And it's just funny because I was talking about this a long time ago, that what they've done to Gaza Strip. And I don't trust the Zionists. I'm sorry, but I don't trust that. And if there was a video I posted where it was a very Jewish guy with the locks and all in downtown New York. We are smoking cigars at Brett's bar, just so everyone's aware if they hear them getting light up, because I need to get lit up again too. But there's a lot of Jewish people that, they believe that if you actually take the Torah by its word and you follow that or whatever, that Jews shouldn't have their own country. It goes against what they believe in, actually.
Jews?
Yeah. So I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know if I trust what we're being told about anything, man.
Well, I don't even know anything about Israel, let alone what's going on over there. So I don't know. You could have an opinion on it. I don't know why they decide. Well, I don't know why they can't find common ground. Honestly,
no, it is true. And I've looked into this stuff, and I've listened. There's like a bunch of rappers that I enjoy that like have talked about it. It made me aware of the situation when I was like younger. But like there is parts of there's extremist Muslims, and there's extremist Jews, and there's extremist Christians, and there's extremists like everybody. So, once you start getting down that dangerous path of like, you think you're right. And there was also Muslim people shouting that like, this is the religion that everybody should like follow and stuff like that. And that's also wrong. The whole idea is we should all be living by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery, right? So people are like flabbergasted about the stuff that I've been saying recently on like some of my like political platforms. Like I called out Pierre Poilievre, right? I just said that like I think he's a puppet and we don't necessarily know if we should trust him, and that politicians lie. And we know one thing about politicians is they lie over and over again, right? And then people like freaked out. Like it got a lot of views and people were like, well, it's better than Trudeau, da da. And then I was like, did a video. I was like, you should probably go through my account and look through all the videos of me calling out Trudeau. I was like, just because I criticize one politician does not mean I'm for the other.
Yeah.
It is weird that people would like, their minds like break and they don't understand when someone like me that is like a libertarian or an anarchist, I'd probably say that in anarchy in Canada, but that's what I would be because I don't trust any side of government.
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of the same way. Like obviously,
I could live perfectly fine if I didn't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
I'd be able to live on my own. Like I'm healthy enough on my own, but
yeah.
like I grow my own food. But
taxation is theft.
100%. And like when you buy property, it's just like, no, well, you got to pay property taxes. Like, well, do I own it then? Because if you don't pay it, then they take it from you. So
exactly.
are
So
you just renting
really
or what are you doing?
You're renting it from the government. That's why it's like people are so lost with all this stuff where it's like someone said like, well, I bet you love the carbon tax. It's like, no, I don't trust either side. It's the same bird in my opinion. And then who knows, Pierre and Trudeau could be buddy behind closed doors and we would never know it.
Let's be honest. They probably went to the same. Who was at George Carlington? It's like it's one big club and you're not in it. They go to the same clubs. They go to
George
the same
Carlin,
restaurant.
He called it the show a long time ago.
Yeah. He says like they may look like they're fighting against each other, but the reality is that you're the enemy.
Yes.
And they make it look like they're hashing it out.
I don't know. Even like when they dragged the speaker in recently, where they had the new speaker, he's the first black speaker or whatever for the House, and they like drag him in as a thing, and people were like, "What? Like they do this?" And it's like a tradition. They drag him in, and it's just like because what he doesn't, they don't want to do their job, so they have to like force them to do it. And like Trudeau and Pierre just laughing together, bringing him up, and I was like, and a lot of people were like, "You think that these people are?" I don't know. I don't trust anything. That's why we're going to talk about this. So this is going to kind of be, we're going to get into a little bit of Masonic rituals and then end it on Albert Pike's prediction of World War III. We're going to go through his predictions for World War I through 3, and it's pretty fascinating actually. So popular history and texts, encyclopedias generally paint the Illuminati as, we will do a whole episode about the Illuminati at some point. We kind of did back in the day of the show, but I would like to really recover it. Having its origins in 1776 Bavaria. However, the origins back further, even go back further. The Illuminati are tied directly through Masonry to the sun and the Isis cults of ancient Egypt. The term Illuminati was used by an early writer, Mendez Playo. I'm not going to pronounce probably his name that well. So as early as 1492, and it's attributable to the group known as the Alumbrados in Spain. And the Alumbrados were said to receive secret knowledge from an unknown higher source, resulting in superior human intelligence. The group was commanded by the Edict of the Grand Inquisitor in 1623, in what is another battle that is long running, a war between the Catholic Church and secret societies. Because that's why there was people that believe that like the Illuminati originally started as a good group to fight against the Catholic Church and what they were doing to people and forcing people to believe in their religious.
I thought that was the Knights Templar, though.
Mm-hmm. That's part of it too, right? Like
you really have to work those things.
Mm-hmm. Smoking up these cigars because they start off with that too, is like kind of like being like warriors in some extent, and like and then they end up like being bought out in some regard by the Catholic Church and.
The Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I was watching a video on that the other day on how that actually kind of came to be. How the Roman Empire was failing, and they're like, well, how do we keep, the future?
Yeah.
So they bought into Christianity, built that, and then they filled all the Greek temples and all the statues that you see of certain people, like, oh, this is Saint Michael, Saint Joseph, Saint Mary. And then they just took the Greek gods that you usually saw and relabeled them as that.
Well, that's what they've done with everything, right? They just like repackage it. They take pagan, pagan traditions, and then they repackage it as Halloween or Christmas and all these other like it's, and that's why it's going to be really interesting when we get into our secret societies episode, because doing that research was fascinating to me of cutting through all this stuff, and I get it from this really backdoor site. That sounds weird, but like some of these sites that they use like the way back machine to like, which is an internet thing where you can search the archives of the internet that have been maybe taken down or kind of erased, and you're able to find information. So they use a lot of articles like that. They take articles from books and everything, and it's a huge site. Even the secret societies things had like a list of all these links you could click, and then it's like this huge long article. So I was like deciphering through it and be like, oh, there could be a bunch of episodes about this, but I wanted to get the basics of so people understand. And me and Billy talked about Freemason and the Freemasonry and the connection to Lucifer, and a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that. I don't necessarily know like if they're bad or whatever, but I don't know, from what I've heard and got into, I do think that it's I don't know. There's something sketchy about the Freemasons. See, this is some of my research when I was getting into the secret societies and how many of them that we at least know of and stuff like that is like, it's kind of fascinating. So, some writers claim that this group, known as the Illuminated Ones, were founded by Joachim of Florus, of the 11th century, and taught a primitive, supposedly Christian doctrine of poverty and equality, the tactic to disguise the illuminous behind the thin veil of Christianity is known and well-established theme. Later, this group said to have become violent and like being, going after the rich and plundering the rich, and therefore, discrediting Christianity as a whole. So, in a lot of research, I don't know, I've done it, and that's why I don't know if it's biased, if it's written by someone who is Christian, but it does seem like a lot of groups attack Christianity in a big way.
I wonder why that is. I wonder why, like, out of all religions, Christianity is the most persecuted.
But then someone might say that the Jewish people are, or like, Judaism or whatever, and then people can claim, and they claim Muslim is or whatever, and it's just like everyone thinks that
really think about it. Like,
I know. Light me up again.
Oh. Well, give her a dab first. Get rid of the ash.
Oh, yeah. Nice. All the stuff will be edited and shit. Except for the video. You get raw cuts. Unless I feel like cleaning it up. So, still others trace the Illuminati to the dreaded Ishmaelian sect of Islam, which is actually kind of interesting. Also known as the Assassins. Founded in 1090 by Hussein Sabah. This group combined the use of drug hashish with murder as their main path to illumination.
Just getting absolutely ripped and deciding who they're going to kill.
Yeah, and maybe doing ritualistic like sacrifice and stuff like that. Which is interesting. It seems like they always do with all these cults. It all has to do with like sacrifice, and like there's theories that Freemasons do like humiliation rituals, and I said that I think that Trudeau could be part of this. Why everywhere he goes, this guy is humiliated on the world stage, and then the Freemason
doesn't get involved in any of the conversations.
No, he just doesn't even think. Like it's like definitely like someone else is thinking for him. He's just doing the bidding and then just recycling talking points and gaslighting people. But there's a theory that he killed his own brother. That they murdered his brother because his brother died in this weird accident. And then afterwards, there's a video of him and his mom talking, and he seems like emotionless. And it's very bizarre. And they think that like you have to sacrifice someone you love, someone you care about, something you care about to gain the path to some of these cults.
He could just be a straight up psychopath.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, his dad was Fidel Castro.
I know.
So.
That's so true. Killing was, they went over to Cuba many times, and supposedly there was a lot of wild parties going on there. So, I don't know. So killing was a mystical experience to this branch of the mystery schools, which eventually we'll dive into that also. It's just we're just kind of getting surface level, and I told you I want to start diving deep into this stuff. They not only maintain the control by murder and threat of murder, they believe that the assassin could acquire the geonosis, or soul energy from the victims. It's the same way of like Anton LaVey when he talks about orgone energy. Anton LaVey was like the founder of the Church of Satan, but he would talk about orgone energy, this energy that we all have. It's kind of like the same thing. I think it's geonosis, or it might just be gnosis. The G might be silent, but it's the whole idea of energy, right? And you're gaining all these movies and all these things that were drip fed about like gaining soul energy or people consuming the soul. And
don't the Africans, like a lot of people in the Congo, believe that if you consume a certain animal that you become part of that animal?
Yeah. Or like if you were, I think there's something to do with like if you kill a war chief, then you will gain his powers and you will become mightier, right? Like if you actually achieve that, right? This theory behind the human and animal sacrifices of Satanism throughout history and ritual child abuse, etc. So these primitive religions get the same effect by dancing and drum beating, like fucking, hey, how are ya? It's
That's bad.
I know, it's always bad. See, but like the idea of like doing these rituals, and indigenous people do it, and many different cultures do it, where they, they're beating drums and they're calling upon their ancestors and dancing around a fire. Me and Billy just did the Halloween special about witches and the whole idea of Wicca, and there's supposed to be festivals that still happen in Ottawa. They're like
that, I believe.
I knew, because we all know what happened with you, but when I went back to school, I met this woman that was a Wiccan. And she said that they would do festivals and rituals and stuff like that in Ottawa and dance around fires naked. And Billy seemed like he was really about it. He wanted to go.
Of course, Billy is.
Seeking this form of illumination was the main attraction of drugs like marijuana, hashish, and LSD to teenagers of the 1960s and of the 1970s. Buddhists can gain the same illumination through sexual rituals known as the tantric yoga. So you could get into that, tantric, doing all those weird, to me, a lot of the tantric stuff, there's a lot of weird moves in that. What's the other one?
Like chi, moving,
Yeah, no, that's moving energy. There's the Buddhist, which is like the tantric yoga.
I'm not too sure. I've never heard of this.
You never heard tantric yoga?
Sorry, I'm not a yoga boy.
I know, but
I normally
there's
hit the weight,
what's there's another one, or there's the different forms of meditation, but it's like you get in these weird positions, and then they're supposed to be transferring energy between the two people, and stuff like that.
Is that Reiki?
Reiki's more like healing through energies. It's gonna bug me. Or through different forms of meditation, witchcraft covens still meet in the nude and participate in group sexual rituals for the same effect. Which is funny because it's I'm going to release this this coming week. So it'll just be, me and Billy just did the Halloween special and talked about witches. So this kind of moves in the same direction of talking about weird stuff that goes on behind closed doors and the cult rituals and all that stuff, right? So mass participation in animal sacrifice is another way to supposedly reach this geonosis, right? And like you said, kind of if you're sacrificing these animals, you're gaining their energy. In some regard. I'll come back to that cigar. It is definitely hard to talk and smoke cigars at the same time because
It definitely is, 'cause you gotta concentrate
you
on it.
constantly have to puff, 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 man. So the sad fact is that although sex, drugs, and dancing and drum beating are believed to release a lot of genosis, Satanists believe that the sacrifices releases more of it than anything else, such as a dark and sordid these weird mechanisms of the deluded soul who think that their geonosis accumulation and illumination will be given in some form of a deity or immortality. So this is what a lot of the satanic people that run our countries probably believe in, is the idea that once you sacrifice something to these gods, they really believe this, that they see entities and stuff like that. So it's disgusting what they do, and they want the adrenochrome, essentially.
It's probably what they want directly after, and that's probably what gives them that massive high.
Well, I'm sure, have you ever seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Where he trips balls and he's
It's funny how he's dressed like a lizard person after.
I know. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things. Well, when he trips out in the, I think, what is he on? Ether? And then he starts to see the carpet move, and then he sees all the lizard. I don't know. There's something. There's a hint to that. We want to get into an episode about Hunter S. Thompson. Some people think he's good. I don't think he's a good person. I think he was probably a pretty bad dude and was into some scary shit and got connected with some very scary people. But that whole idea is and then he sees him as the devil when he's on adrenaline and stuff like that, and people think it's just from movies, and it's no, they're showing you what they're doing. And the idea is when they drink the adrenochrome, the blood with adrenaline in it, after they scare the living shit out of a kid because they wanted prepubescent is what most people think, that's just before puberty because they're going through these changes. And then
you think it's just the equivalent of veal, because the meat's more tender and more sweet.
Yeah, and younger and innocent, right? And that energy, wherever that energy, because the thing about it, if a soul comes into this life, it's new, right? But it's been here before, right? Your soul gets recycled, supposedly.
Reincarnation.
Yeah, reincarnation.
Well, that kind of explains why your being is why you like certain things, why you're drawn to certain things, because it's, revenants of your past life.
I think that because like I think that
100%.
I think you even choose. So I've always believed that I think that you choose like your parents and when you were born and like the month, and then that's why when you read astrological charts, especially ones that are legit, it like can match your personality to like a very high. Like it's weird.
I always had a theory on that. Like when you're never really true to yourself,
Yeah.
your astrological chart never really matches up with you. But when you're actually like want to be like, I want to find my inner self and actually who I am as a person, those characteristics are more enhanced.
Yeah.
Because you're actually looking for your real self. Mm-hmm. But when you're like constantly trying to appease people and what they think you should be and how you should be,
Yeah.
then those don't really align up at all because society constantly changes along with.
I agree, and they want to like transform people into something that they're not, right? And like I'm like, I don't know, for sure, like if you look at a Scorpio, I'm definitely a Scorpio at every facet. Like they like dark and scary things, and they're creative and like art and drawing and all that stuff. So it's like very matched up. And I remember like even Billy didn't believe it at one point, but he was very young at this time. And then I joked with him, I was like, go look it up. And I was like, he's the Virgo, which is the virgin at the time, who was the virgin. And then he came into work the next day and he's like, I looked into like the astrological stuff, and he's like, I am the virgin. And it was just funny that he's like, it sounded just like me. I was like, and he was like, I don't know, 18 or some shit. And I'm like, because it's spooky. And some of them are like, the ones that you get on the internet are probably just some guy making it up or some woman being like, you're going to find your soulmate today, when people are constantly reading up on it.
But the other thing is like when you look into like, there's some people where you just don't jive with at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like, you look into it a little more, it's like their birthday, and it's like, huh.
And then, yeah.
You kind of look into it, it's like, oh, well, we're not really supposed to be hanging out because, like,
no, and
apparently we don't get along because we have opposing viewpoints on how we think.
Yeah, and that's why it's kind of funny that, like, my mom is also a Scorpio, but the female energy of a Scorpio is very much different than a male energy of a Scorpio.
100%.
So we butt heads, right? So we're constantly arguing, and I was with years ago a girl that was also a Scorpio, and like the sex was great because we both jived off of each other and all that stuff, but it was a very, I guess you could say, sexual relationship, but we didn't agree on a lot of stuff. She wanted to, because she was from foster care and stuff like that, wanted to just she just wanted to like get married instantly and have someone to protect her, and like I didn't know if that was what I wanted in life at that time. I was still figuring out what I was doing and who I wanted to be with, and it would have never worked because of how we butted heads. Why two signs, usually as male and female energy, shouldn't come together of the same sign. Never seems to work out.
That's time.
So Masonry, a vast organism of propaganda, acts by slow suggestion, spreading the revolutionary firmament in an insidious manner. The head sow, it must be the inner lodges, and then they transmit to the lower lodges, and then it penetrates into the affiliated institutions, into the press, and which takes hand to the public. So it's talking about essentially that it comes from the top of the head of these organizations like Masonry and all these cults, and then it trickles down to the lower lodges. That's why like there's people that believe that they're 33rd degree Masons, and they've been doing it for a while because they're a 33rd degree Mason in that lodge, but that lodge is very low rung on the totem pole. Right. Because when people get to the very top, the 33rd degree, you worship Lucifer and you do all these weird rituals, and a lot of Freemasonry is like just like what they do in schools, is that it's repetitive. You have to you have to learn all these rites and rituals and then just regurgitate it over and over and over again. And, I've known people that have been asked to join, stuff like that, and they're like, fuck that, man. It's just like speaking the same, like it's just being brainwashed in a different way than what schooling or what other things do in this society, right? And I don't know. I knew a kid, when I went back to school, I knew a kid, and he was like super into Apathy, which is a rapper who is like a Freemason. And he was like, oh, I got my ring. I'm already a 3rd degree. And I'm like, when did you start? He's like, oh, recently. Well, I was like, you're not a 3rd degree. And it's like they sell you on this stuff, but you don't know anything. No. And I'm reading David Icke's book right now, Children of the Matrix. And it's like interesting because all these people are like, think they know what's going on, but they're just being lied to. And then from the top, they're just spreading lies and disinformation to all these other Masons. And they think that they have knowledge, but they're just getting you inside their rungs. It's like the ladder, right? Yeah. You're trying to climb up at higher and higher, and obviously then eventually it gets into like the institutions and the press and all that stuff, and tirelessly and during necessary numbers of years the suggestion works upon the public opinion. Ooh, the lights just flickered. Spooky. And fashions it to wish for its reforms from which a nation dies. In 1789 and 1847, the years of the French Revolutions, Freemasonry, in its momentary command of power, failed in its superior endeavor. So they planned to have to take over, and then they failed because of the Revolutionary War. Taught by these experiences, its progress has become slower and surer. When once the revolutionary preparations is obtained and judged significant, Masonry leaves the field of the military organizations and other secret societies, and they left all these organizations, because this is like what this guy's quote is, and then they kind of backed up a little bit, and they kind of retreated into the shadows, because they realized that they couldn't be so out in the open because they won't be able to achieve their goals. Which makes sense, kind of thing, right? So there it is not compromised. In the case of Czech, it seems like they have remained apart, and all of the and they've been able to continue and take up again to work. It says like a gnarling worm, obscure and destroying. So it sits there. So Masonry never works in full light of day. Everyone knows of its existence, its meeting places, its many different lodges, and but one is ignorant to the real aims. Its real means, its real leaders, and the immense majority of Masons themselves are in that position where they don't know. They're blind, right? They're only the blind machinery of the sect of which they serve. Many honest Freemasons are so blind that they would be stupefied, that's a nice word, if they knew what they were actually being used for. And I truly believe that they think that they're doing, that it's a brotherhood, and they're actually changing things that maybe be able to, change the world for something good. But really, they're serving a darker purpose, because there's some that believe that they're fighting for a good cause.
Yeah.
Like I know someone that's in the Knights of Columbus, which is like a Christian sect of a secret society that supposedly fights against the Freemasons and stuff too. There's many different societies, and that's the whole idea of like, man, I don't think Klaus Schwab is the fucking head. I think he's a puppet. The people that really control and run the world, you'll never know their names, you'll never see their faces. And that's why I'm trying to dig into the stuff to really start talking about people like the Rothschilds, and to get into the Khazarian Mafia and some of the stuff that most people might not know about. And
it's funny how all these people are always head of the organization. Like, for example, like United States there's always like a group of 7, which is kind of like a very interesting number.
Yes, that's a godly number.
That like 7 different like major families and organizations that are in the United States own all the food, all the oil, all the products that are sold and bought and traded daily through the United States and in North America.
And they've owned it for a long time. Like there's the Habsburg family that then kind of branched off because they had like warred with the Rothschilds, supposedly. I think that's the way it went. But eventually we're going to get into some of that stuff too, of like there's the 13 Illuminati blood families. But there's like there is the families that control like the United States.
Yeah.
And then there's families that control Europe, and there's families that control Russia.
Yeah.
And I feel like they all want the same kind of thing, but in different ways. And this is where it happens, where you kind of want this to happen, where these people in these different, sects of Satanism or cults or whatever you want to call them, secret societies, they do war with each other at times. And that's kind of what you want
100%,
to split them up.
Did you hear about this conspiracy? This is pretty good.
Yeah.
The reason for the Titanic sinking, that there was a family that was on the Titanic that was coming over to stop the central bank and stopping,
the Federal Reserve.
Stopping the Federal Reserve to be, if it wasn't made, then there wouldn't be no central bank in the United States. And the fact that they, perished in, the Titanic.
And they used the Britannica or whatever, the ship that wasn't the real Titanic. They switched it out.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's funny because
it's in the one part of the ocean that no one can get to, and it's just like, how do they know that That's the one part that no one will ever get to.
There's so many. We did a whole episode about the Titanic conspiracy theories because it's fascinating. I'm not gonna lie. I love the movie. We did an episode.
It's a good movie.
We did an episode about the conspiracies and about like ghosts and hauntings to do with the Titanic. And I do think like there's the idea of like J.P. Morgan orchestrated this, and so he could stay at the top. But that's why I always like say to people about because we're gonna get in the World War stuff is that the main goal supposedly there's other population control. There's all these different theories, but the main goal was to consolidate the wealth. You know how Sweden, Switzerland is always the one.
It's always neutral.
It's always neutral.
And everyone hides all their money there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why they have those conferences there and stuff like that.
Did you see the one where they opened up the tunnel that went underneath from... like they've been drilling for like 8-10 years underneath the mountain. And then when the tunnel reopened for like transportation between, to cities, like the opening to it was like insanely like satanic.
I don't know. There's some weird stuff because I posted a video. I was like, this is where you're, it says so many views on TikTok, but it's this truck going into this underground tunnel. And then I cut it to this clip of this guy driving on a motorcycle through these underground tunnels. And it's just enough to get like a vehicle through. And I believe that they're hiding stuff and they have tunnels underground that go, who knows how deep to some underground bases. And that's why I was going to say, like, there's supposedly the 33 degrees of Freemasonry, right? There's a theory, and I think David Icke's the one that said this, is that there's also another 33 degrees above that is like the Raptilian order.
For a grand number of 66.
It's fucking it's crazy, man. And I don't like it. It's so weird. So every Mason swears to set an oath so ancient that separates the term that has been set to describe them. This is like the way this author wrote this is slightly confusing, but they're called blood oaths. This whole idea of doing blood oaths, Masonry as you know it today, is thought to have 33rd degrees or levels. Many offshoots of these organizations have developed over the years an attempt to add additional degrees above the publicly known 33, as I said, which is kind of like, and people believe that there's like, it goes even higher, something extraterrestrial or interdimensional.
This is kind of funny because like you see 33 in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. So like Rolling Rock, they have 33 in the bottom of all of their bottles, and no one... All right, Prohibition ended in 33.
Yeah.
In Walt Disney World, there's club called 33.
Yeah. Me
and
Billy
then like
talked about
it's an
that.
Exclusive club where you have to pay like a monthly fee of
and
50
they have
grand.
the people pay attention to symbolism, right? Even the whole idea of that, the new X, right? The new platform for Twitter. If you put the symbol side by side, it turns into the Freemasonic symbol. And the G,
like with that symbol would have to be like intercrossing for like
So if you put the one symbol side by side, I don't know. It's I think they.
But like that's the other thing. Like X is also like the Christianity sign of like Christ. So like
I know
this is kind of interesting. Like how we don't know how it's all pieced together, but they keep using numerical numbers that are very divisible.
Yeah, and like. I don't know. That's why people really want to trust in like Elon Musk. I don't trust the dude.
I don't trust him either.
And that's why I don't know. Sorry, but I'm a fan of David Icke. I'm his fanboy. I read his books. I've listened to him for a very long time. But he also says that he doesn't trust Elon. That he's warning about AI, and then he wants to do neural links. It's like,
and he literally wants to put chips inside your brain.
And he wants to have these low orbit satellites. And according to David Icke, it will beam 5G onto the Earth that will have like detrimental effects on nature, on human beings. And I don't know, they're trying to take us into this future of technology where we're consumed by it and we're living in a fucking AI headset. And that's what even...
your thoughts won't be your own anymore.
No, and that's what they're even talking about with the World Economic Forum is that, some people will be able to have the benefit of being able to travel. And, then they can, the poor people can sell their, chips or whatever their currency they're going to use, their carbon emission chips or whatever. And then rich people can buy it off of poor people. And then there is this on the stage, they're saying this, and they're saying like, no, and then there's people that'll be able to have some sort of Oculus set where they can travel inside the VR and they don't actually need to leave the country. And I'm like, they're just trying to make a digital prison. Like I just did a recent song where I said like enslaved into a digital hell, consumed by the miserable self. and it's just like you're just it can't stand the physical self. I did this whole like line thing about like how they want to degrade you and all that stuff, and you can see it. Look at our culture right now. Everyone's so politically divided on everything.
Well, it seems like they've made two teams, and then there's nothing right up the middle. It's like, no, you got to be on this team or this team.
I know, and I'm like, I don't trust either side, man. I posted something, and people like got mad about it too. Like everyone gets mad about all the shit. Where I'm like, I don't stand with Palestine. I don't stand with Israel. I stand with the innocent people that are caught in the crossfire, children getting murdered for these oligarchs, these elites to fulfill their agenda.
Well, it gives them some sort of satisfaction, like you said, like for World War II. Mm-hmm. Make sure you don't drink the bottom of that.
Yeah. Why? It's going to be pure liquor?
No, it's going to be pure grinds. Grinds from the French press.
French crimes.
French crimes, yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's just the process. It's good. I like it. And I need this. I'm just waking up and talking about conspiracies. You need like a strong coffee. Oh yeah, 100%.
But that's what I was saying about the world, especially World War II, as far as I understand, was to centralize all the money in the United States to make them the superpower. And they knew that they were doing this behind the scenes. They knew they could achieve this, and that's why they got all these countries be like, well, during this war, you don't want your money to go miss, like you don't want someone to come plunder it. So the idea is like the military did go through, they took all the gold and they transfer it to the Federal Reserve, which made the United States the superpower.
But they also,
and that was the main
the United
goal.
States also became the superpower strictly from the fact that they had all the factories, nothing was untouched or unscathed.
Yeah, I know.
And then they became, it's funny how they call it the land of opportunity. Like what exactly is opportunity in your worldly view? Is it being successful, or is it the fact of like, what could it goes back to the kind of an old expression where like the devil will give you literally everything you want and put you in a prison cell and leave the door wide open. It's like, well, I never want to leave.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, when the door's shut, it's like, oh, it's too late.
100%. And that's why I always I say to people about the way that the world's going and how they want to like trap you and give you like, it's selling you all these things about convenience. So everything, they want to sell you these things. That's why I was listening to David Icke recently on this podcast, and he's starting to I'm glad he's getting his feet in. I saw a YouTube podcast he was on where he's like been banned from YouTube. Yeah. And Alex, I will say this too. You know who Vivek Ramaswamy is? No. So he is one of the candidates in the United States. He is on the right, but he's more of I would say more of a kind of a libertarian. I pay attention to some of the stuff he's been doing, but not a lot. But he's very open to debate and to have freedom of speech. And people that are very Trump supporters are kind of if Trump is too much for me, I kind of like this guy because he says all the right things and shit, just like all politicians. But what surprised me is he did a podcast and he had Alex Jones on. Really? And he was like, this is the first time I'm meeting Alex. Everyone, tells me I'm not supposed to talk to him. And he had him on his podcast. I'm like, And people can say what they want about Alex Jones. He might be a disinformation agent. And if everyone is, then we're doomed anyway. But the whole idea is I've liked Alex Jones. He's been right 60% of the time. He's not right all the time, but he's been right in more cases than he's been not. And I don't know. There's something about him that I trust some of what he says, but he's also he's not a fan of Muslims and them coming over and then maybe an attack coming from within. The call is coming from within the house, So and I'm I don't know, man. People are just people. And I did a video where I was nobody wants this. Imagine if humanity united, because everyone wants the same thing, man. Everyone stop this right, left bullshit, Israel versus Palestine, everything that's going on. It's just to keep us divided and angry with each other. But if humanity woke up and realized, wow, we're all the same. We all want happiness. We all want to live in peace. Mostly, it's just the crazy people on top. I don't know. I think everything's
and then you convince all the ones that can't really think for themselves to fight.
Yeah, people. It's called you're useful idiots. That is in the Marxist manifesto. This is what they want from you: is to do their bidding, and you don't even know it because you've been radicalized, right? So obviously, there's all these different degrees of Masonry, and then there's some that are public, and there's some that are not public. And Mormonism is such an offshoot, which is pretty interesting. Its founder, Joseph Smith. If not all of his inner circle of supporters were Masons. He borrowed heavily from Masonic rituals for his newly created Mormon ceremonies. With each With each successive degree, the Masons must swear to even more cruel and barbaric oaths. The following details of the initiation oaths are the first degrees of Freemasonry and closely guarded Masonic secrets. In fact, Masons must swear to kill any fellow Mason who reveals them. And this is what, if you start digging deep, especially in the real inner circles of Freemasonry, it's not this whole like brotherhood thing. It's just like, oh no, if you reveal us, you will get murdered in a horrible way and displayed so other Freemasons know. It's almost like the Vlad the Impaler, which I think would be a fun episode for us to do, but him just sticking heads on a thing, being like, beware, don't come beyond this because I will murder.
Vlad the Impaler used the whole entire body. He would put him up to the
wild.
bottom and then hang the entire body upright.
Like a scarecrow.
Yeah, kind of like a scarecrow.
Because it's scaring everyone else not to. And me and Billy, it's now on Patreon, so you get all these Lost Tapes episodes. We're talking about villains of history, and I was like, Vlad the Impaler definitely should get his own episode because it's a fascinating story. Some of those, like even Genghis Khan is such a crazy story. He supposed to be is the blood lineage of Asians. It's fucking nuts. Like 80% or something like that.
No, it was way less than that. It was like 60%. 60% of like all of Asians are apparently. We're looking for more.
Do we have more coffee?
It's tiny, a little bit more, but not enough. Yeah, grab that French press.
I'll drink it. I don't care about the little grainies. Have a little more coffee. That's why I was going to bring... Chelsea makes a big pot. I was going to bring that, because it's pretty decent coffee. I thought this would be a little better. But she, loves her coffee. She, drinks, almost, half the pot, and I have, one, and I'm kind of good. I'll have a little bit more. It's going to be a fun day. Just starting off with a little rum and coffee. Good thing I did eat before I came here. So, fortunately for humanity, however, several brave souls in the last 200 years have felt compelled to speak out, publishing the secret work for the world to see. It's thanks to these courageous men that we have the exact wording and rituals of at least the first 3 degrees. Focusing so much on the stuff in the world, especially the way that TikTok is, because I have a platform there where I have all thousands of followers that listen to me speak and want to hear my political opinion and all that stuff, which is still strange to me. And I thought I lost my big account, and it was almost like a relief, but I appealed it and I got it back where I'm like, time to start, just promoting my podcast in the music. And then I get in these things where I'm like, no, I gotta say something about this. And then you get sucked into it. Or even I do, man. I'm sucked into this stuff, and then it's like instant gratification because you have all these people that are like, yeah, you're right about this stuff, and I also agree. And then it kind of becomes egotistical where at some point, especially when we have kids, I need to step away from it and focus completely on the podcast and my music. But because now I have this platform to speak out, I get sucked into it too, where then it consumes your mental health. Yeah. Where you're like, oh, I'm always paying attention to what's next. Even Chelsea's like, you need to step back a little bit because it's consuming. Where I'm always talking about what's going on in the world, and it's not necessarily healthy. And I can look at, but it's like Aaron said on the one podcast, he's like, you have good self-awareness, and I was like, I do, but it doesn't mean it ever helps, That's why I'm able to talk to my friends about it, and it doesn't get too heated because we understand each other, right?
We want to know answers. That's the other thing. We're trying to look for,
I'm just trying to figure it out, man. Because I don't know what the fuck I don't know where we're headed, and I hope we
already know where we're headed. World War III is right on the horizon.
There's a lot, and that's why I've said to people, it's like you can't live in all this negativity, and I was like, it's about being aware of what's really going on, right? It's about accepting the truth, because there's the idea of yes, we can. I want people to understand this, especially on an episode like this, where it's kind of darker and it's negative about who controls the world and how scary it is or whatever, but the whole idea is I want people to realize that, there's people that are orchestrating this stuff, but it takes just humanity waking up and uniting together to reach a higher level of consciousness and to actually if we keep going down this path, the Great Reset will happen. And that's what people think is they want to reset the whole system to bring the population back down and kind of restart again, because they've done this throughout history. I'm listening to another book by David Wilcock. Some people think he's crazy. He's on Ancient Aliens. He's like a weird dude that believes in a lot of crazy stuff to normies. But I've read, I'm listening to his 3rd book, but I've read his other 2 books, the Synchronicity Key, and then the Ascension Mysteries, and now I'm on his latest one. And I'm like, I find it it's interesting. I don't know if he's for real, but he really believes that we're going to a place of a golden age where humanity will wake up and will transform into something better than what we are now, more peaceful and in harmony. But there's a lot of people that think that we're going the other direction to the dark ages. So I'm like, I don't know, if technology consumes us, we're definitely going to go into a dark age, so to speak. So it was these people that exposed the stuff that was going on. So the personal experience of Lucifer is not often described in literature. What it is, what would it be like to be Hitler living in a physical body with the incarnational Luciferian energy? Can only be hinted at his biography. So the idea that is somebody like Hitler or some of these people throughout history, and I know there's conspiracy theorist people that believe that he was fighting for the good side. I don't trust that either. Do not put that in the realm, because I think that people can't have debates about this stuff because they hear what they know. Like, they massacred all these people for nationalism or whatever like that, right? And the idea of what their beliefs were, and Nazis were horrible people, but were they manipulated by some unseen force? Probably. And it was all to benefit the people orchestrating both sides of the war. Because I really believe every world war was orchestrated. The surface level would be the Rothschilds. They know that they put money into both sides.
Well, it depends how much money is actually running on their side, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter who loses. They don't care.
And then the victor writes history.
Well, this is the other thing that I kind of look at it like this. Like, so think about all those men that fought in World War II.
Yeah.
What kind of men were they looking for?
What do you mean?
Well, like...
evil.
No, not like that.
Yeah.
Think about all the men they were looking for when it came to conscription, when it came to fighting. They want the strongest, the best of the best.
That human has.
no, not like that. Like, think about it like on the American side too.
Yeah.
Think about all the men they wanted to fight. Mm-hmm. They wanted the strongest, smartest, most upstanding men.
To get rid of them. Yeah.
And if you got rid of them, then you have a league of absolute,
you have a weak
pushovers,
society.
And then pushovers, having kids that are also pushovers, and having 70, 80
true.
years of pushovers.
It's like,
and then
that,
you have this race of a whole bunch of pushovers that doesn't stand up for anything because
pussies.
Yeah, exactly, because they don't stand for what's
They
right.
only stand what they're told to stand for.
Exactly.
You must stand for this. You must stand for that. That's why the only thing I stand for is humanity.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like you see all these people, even with this, like, because they're talking about conscription and if it would happen again in history and how they'd have to conscript women and stuff like that. And then there's people like on social media apps that are like, I'm not going to war. My doctor says my mental health I'm not capable of doing. Like, making jokes about it. And it's just like, yeah, if they in this war might do it if they can lower the population in a huge way, because they want to get it down to 500 million according to the Georgia Guidestones. Maybe that's just America, right? And all these different things that have been talked about for centuries. But if you can get rid of all the strongest people and then you have just a bunch of
pushovers,
pussies, useless eaters, then I don't know. It seems a little dangerous. That's why I want to start getting into this stuff before maybe it's too late to really talk about this stuff. So I want to make people, because there's a lot of people that have been caught up in this fight, even especially on the right side of things. There's people that I thought would be more centrist or in the middle and being like both sides are evil, both sides are orchestrated. It's the same bird, that are falling for the right side. Yes, like as Tom MacDonald said, I like his song, but like that the more destructive ideologies are definitely coming from the left. The left has went so far left, and the right has now become like the middle. But they're still they're still being brainwashed by propaganda. They're
the liberals of 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's so weird, dude. That's why they're trying to push everything one direction and the other. So the traditions of the Hollywood idea of fangs and claws and large devilish bodies is a stereotype that does not equal the assimilation of these energies into the third dimensional living. Perhaps some of Aleister Crowley's life might hint at that part, which Aleister Crowley is a very interesting character that me and Billy talked about, but it would be interesting to dive back into him. Alan Richardson, perhaps to some extent, manifests this in his books in his book Earth God Rising, the slow descent into what we might be called Luciferianism, which is what I think a lot of the Freemasons believe in. So silence, slaves, or we'll cut your throat from ear to ear. And this is supposed to be part of the first degree. Binding myself under no less penalty than having my throat cut across. An oath from Freemasonry entered apprentice degree 1. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by earth, neither by any other oath. James 5:12. In every ritual degree, Freemasons are in all most important ceremony rituals and initiations of elite orders. The candidates are required to take an oath and is warned of hideous and grotesque penalties that await them if they dare to reveal any of the organization's secrets. And that's how they get them, right? The whole idea is that they trick people into joining these organizations and thinking that they'll have brotherhood and camaraderie and all that stuff. But then it's like, well, if you go against us, you'll be killed. The whole idea of I always talk about people, celebrities have definitely done some shady stuff behind closed doors, the Jeffrey Epstein style stuff. And they film you. They get people in precarious positions, right? And then they're like, well, we have this on you. You see this picture of you with this like young girl that will show the world it is. Like the Hunter Biden stuff, man. Some of the stuff, the pictures of him, very young girls, is pretty disturbing. For example, in the first degree oath of Masonry, the candidate declares, binding myself under no less penalty than having my throat cut across, my tongue torn out by its roots, and my body buried in the rough sands of the sea, at low water mark, where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours. And should I ever knowingly violate this, my entered apprentice obligation. Pretty interesting. So that's like, it's always down these like fancy terms of like the way they phrase things. Is just it's almost like an old English style way of speaking, and not in the dumbed down ways that we
borderline Latin.
Yeah. Second degree Masons recite the following hideous oath: binding myself under no less penalty than having my breast torn open, my heart plucked out, and placed on the highest pinnacle of the temple, there to be devoured by vultures of the air, should I ever knowingly violate the fellow craft obligation. Pretty weird. And you think about it too, of like Osiris. I think it's Osiris that measures your heart in the afterlife of in Egypt.
Yeah, he'd measure with a feather to see if you lived a balanced life.
It's just like
and then to see if you're which is kind of messed up, because you'd really think like, what's their two tools they have for the Masonic temple? It's like one's a square.
It's the
and then the other one is. It's
the what's that called?
It's not a combination.
Not the compass. I can't think of
it. But it's the two.
We use this in school. Yeah. It maps out.
Yeah. But it's funny how like
I can't think of this right now.
Neither can I. But those two instruments, they believe that can literally map out any type of geometric form. But also, is it just a symbolization for what they can map out for the future?
Yeah. It is. It's about building, right? They were known as builders at the beginning. It is. I don't know. It is interesting because this blood oath and that's what. Who knows? That's why I think like some of these celebrities that end up getting murdered, maybe they went against what's his name? Robin Williams. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you remember that episode on Family Guy where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna hang myself by a belt"?
I know.
And then all of a sudden, like not even like 2 or 3 years later, he hung himself.
And this is why I think they also do they'll do documentaries about how he was so depressed and that. And
same thing with Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I know. Well, Jim Carrey went out and took ayahuasca. I really believe that he did this. I thought he was mushrooms, but I'm pretty sure he had an ayahuasca trip and he broke free of his programming. And then that's when he kept talking about, he's like, Jim Carrey's just a character that I play in life. And he started breaking down this metaphysical ideology of who he was as a person, and he was just playing a character in life. And I don't know, that's why you see him now where it's like, he knows some shit.
He knows something.
deep, dark secrets. And so even like people like we will do more episodes about like the deaths of celebrities, because I would love to dive into that, of like Heath Ledger. A line I love by Diabolic is like, sleep better than Heath Ledger under a dream catcher. Because, like, I believe they probably killed him because he was doing something. Shady Ors is ritualistic murders. That they ritualistically murder people to gain energy. The whole idea of war, too, can do that. It's ritualistic sacrifice.
Yeah. Well, like, the same thing. Like, it's funny how, like, I feel like some celebrities promise more than what they're actually able to give.
Yeah,
and, like, same thing with, like, remember Sean Connery?
Yeah.
Remember when he died?
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. Where there's smoke, there's fire. No, he died on Halloween.
I didn't know that. That's fucking trippy.
Yeah, Sean Connery. You gotta remember, like,
Sam Hain.
Yeah, like, you gotta think about all these like massive celebrities dying on certain dates, right?
I know, and it's weird. And like Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, while he was trying to look into the child trafficking stuff. Same with the guy from Soundgarden, Chris Cornell. I was going to post a video of that because that shit's very interesting. And there's people that are very close to him that think that he was murdered. Anthony Bourdain. I love Anthony Bourdain. He inspired me when I was a chef and stuff like that. And he did battle with depression. And part of me thinks these people, they battle with the depression and drug use and all that stuff. It is probably because they've seen some dark and horrendous stuff, or realized what Hollywood.
Or maybe they committed themselves and they actually see the true horrors of what they're actually doing, and they try and like reverse it, and then they get caught trying to reverse it, and they're usually off, and then like.
Yeah, the idea
and then if
of
you control the media too, it's like, oh well, he was struggling with depression, or like he had demons, or like they can paint any story and no one's going to question, no one's going to look into it. Like, how do you look into it?
I know, because you wouldn't really know. That's why it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't trust any of this stuff, and I do think they ritualistically, and that's what I'm saying. If they kill these people because they went against their oath. But I've always said this, right? These celebrities that sign their soul over to the devil or over to the dark side.
And they joke about it too.
Yeah, like, and they say it. Katy Perry says it. And then the idea is like, okay, so, and I said this to my wife recently. So it's like, that they do this in this physical form. In this physical life, you get everything that you could want. But then in the next life, you are a slave for as long as that they want. That's why I always want to tell people like that you can make as many mistakes as you want here. You are here to learn lessons. I've made many throughout my life, but I do think that you are here to learn as many lessons as possible to take it on to the next life. And if, whoever is waiting for you, whatever energy or force is if you are to be judged in some sort of way, and I don't think it's judged in a negative way, I think it's judged in like your spiritual guides that watch you over your higher self is like, well, no, you haven't learned enough. You need to come back. But then I've said on episodes, like, it's the scariest idea would be that the reptilians, there's like a theory that they have a web over the earth that they've been controlling, and there's positive energies that are trying to combat this, and that reincarnation is slavery, because you constantly come back into this, like, to a body here, a physical body, and then they exhume your energy through that physical form. And rather than it being like, I believe it's about learning lessons, and that's why I say you're an alcoholic in this life and you don't like learn from it, like my aunt that drank herself to death and got a tumor, right? Or my uncle that died of drug addiction, right? That I think that they're coming back.
Trying to like, you keep coming back to face the temptations that once took you.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I love drinking, people. I love it, man. Like, I enjoy drinking to an extent, especially on weekends, and I try not to drink during the week and all stuff. Like, I've always, like, kept it at bay, that kind of demon. But, like, alcohol comes from the word alcohol. And me and Billy talked about this in our History of Alcohol episode, which means body-eating spirit. So it's like...
It's funny how they call, like, liquors spirits, too, because, like...
You're coming in contact.
Makes you wonder, like...
Have you ever seen 1408?
No.
What? You've never seen 1408? You should check it out. It's a movie with he's not around anymore. It's gonna bug me. Someone's shouting it. I know they are. John Cusack. And we were watching it last night. I didn't finish it, but I've seen it before. Like, I watched it as a kid, and it tripped me out. It scared me a bit. And he goes to this. He's a writer that writes.
Okay, hold
stories.
on. It's about a room that is 1408.
Yeah.
No, I have seen that.
And how he like drinks, and then he gets all paranoid, and he thinks that something is that he's drinking is
And then
like
he's stuck in the room and he's trying to get out.
he can never get out. Oh man.
And then he just sets the room on fire. It's like, I have to destroy the thing that is making me.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't finish it last night because I haven't seen
And
it in a while.
Samuel Jackson was the main hotel owner.
I was at that part where he's like, he comes out the window and he has to like scale the window because
And it keeps getting longer and longer.
I do not like heights, dude. That even tripped me out last night because I was like, we had a couple of drinks, drank some wine, and I was like, don't like that. And the idea of like how you like drink and you get consumed, and I feel like you leave your body open to these energies that can take hold of you. You know.
The other thing is like what kind of made it interesting is like what kind of made like you hear all these stories about like what kind of split families up. Yeah. Think about when like the Prohibition was going on. It's kind of funny because I'm watching like Boardwalk Empire right now.
Yeah, I knew you were watching that. It's sick.
And it's funny because like
I haven't gotten into that show. I'd like to watch at some point.
I'll let you borrow the whole entire season.
Oh, sick.
It's a lot of series, but it's interesting how you see like the whole premise of why people are betraying and you know becoming belligerent and becoming as angry as they are and greedy and everything like that. It's almost like alcohol is almost like wanting to do it.
No, and it does influence you, and I'm sure like you leave yourself open to these darker energies that can then take hold of you, and it calcifies your pineal gland and all sorts of stuff, right? And then you have the idea of like that the certain drugs do that too. Cocaine will do that to people. Well, they're just like they need their next fix, and they become like look at fucking Vladimir Zelensky. That guy's definitely a cokehead. And then it's just like drop the bombs, and they don't give a shit, and they're like just coke-fueled anger, and you're leaving yourself open to dark energies. And I've expressed on this show that I got too involved with drugs when I was younger, and it almost destroyed my life and shit like that. And it's a dangerous path you walk on because then you don't care about anything other than staying in that high, right? And
was it called Chasing the Dragon?
Yeah, that's heroin. That's fucking dangerous. So the 3rd degree oath proclaims binding myself under no less penalty than having my body severed in two, my bowels taken from thence and burned into ashes, the ashes scattered before the four winds of heavens, that no more remembrance might be had of so vile and wicked as the wretch as I would be, should I ever knowingly violate this my master Mason's obligation. Pretty interesting. And that's not all. In the 4th degree, Mark Master of York Rite, the candidate performs a ritual which is symbolized having his ear smitten off if he reveals the order of the secrets. And there's ones about having your fucking head cut off. So, and after the 5th degree, Past Master, the hapless candidate, agrees as follows: bind myself under no less penalty than, in addition to all my former penalties. So the higher you get, the more
penalties you receive.
Penalties you get. Eventually, they cut off your balls and feed them to pigs. I'm just kidding. That would be like the worst. It's like it's like
I don't feel
torture. They cut off your ear, and then they cut off your hand or your finger. Like who knows how far it will really go. But to have my tongue split from tip to root, that I might therefore be unable to pronounce the word. The 6th degree, the most excellent master. Excellent. I watched Wayne's World when we were away after the wedding, and it's just like
excellent.
That's why I thought I don't want to ruin it, but I do think that would be a very fun costume for a Halloween special. I have so many ideas for going forward with this show, and so the 6th degree, the most excellent master of the York Rite, continues with his horrific penalties, binding myself under no less penalty than to have my breast torn open and my heart and vitals taken from thence exposed to the rot on a dunghill. So to cut out all your intestines and then put them on a poop mountain. Because that's what it's pretty much saying. Pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff that goes into Freemasonry, and we'll kind of eventually dive back into it to some extent when I think it will be a good idea. We'll do like a deep dive into like Illuminati. I definitely want to do the Secret Society episode with Billy just to get his ideas, but it would be interesting if we could probably do it here.
Yeah,
and it would be interesting to have just 3 of us. Maybe like when we're doing all 4 of us, when all the boys are together, it's too much craziness. But those will be left up, and I hope everyone liked the Urban Legends episode because there will be more like that. That we'll have just a lot of fun. I'll break it down to very simple, fun topics that we can just have a lot of fun because I knew a lot of people were getting downloading that episode and it's getting some views on YouTube. It's supposed to be a fun time. I like doing episodes like mostly this is all about fun and speculating about weird conspiracies and paranormal events and true crime and all that stuff. But there's times where, like I said, I want to start diving into a lot of this deeper conspiracy aspects or truth stuff because I think a lot of people are here for it. They don't know what's going on in the world, and if I can dig into a lot of research, I read a lot of books and stuff like that, and then help people understand what is really going on rather than dividing themselves and then just watching a documentary and then believing it, or watching a video on TikTok and being like, that's my gospel. That's what's wrong with the world, right?
Yeah. Too much accessible information.
And then nobody knows what the hell. Like people keep feeding other people misinformation, and then now the whole thing is we should have open debate, and people should be able to talk to each other in a calm manner and be able to express certain ideologies. And that's where we're going in a very dangerous direction of them trying to control information because they don't want people.
And what people say.
They don't want people to open up and have open dialogue and
they don't want a thinking society. They want a complicit society.
Yeah, I did a video on that, which I don't know if I posted it, but I was just like, do you think they really want a society of well-educated people?
No.
Fuck no. They want you to be consumed by the system, and they want you to be indoctrinated and that's where it's going. If they can take control of the next generation and have the schooling system orchestrated by a one world government type style thing where everyone gets taught the same thing across the globe and they're all indoctrinated in these weird ideologies, and then having the government become God is very dangerous.
Yeah, it's like Rage Against the Machines. When they said that one song, it's he who controls the future controls the past.
Yeah, and then look what happened to them.
Yeah,
they sold out.
Yeah.
And then now Ramstein is a reptilian.
Man, I can't believe that.
Okay.
I was shocked.
People think that that's edited, but somebody listen to this. Somebody just found this watching their live show and then caught that and then and slowed it down. And it's so quick and so HD that it's kind of creepy.
What if he just did it to see if anyone will notice?
Maybe he did it, right, as a joke thing, but I don't know. What do we know about Germans, Brett?
I don't know.
They have the power to be very evil. Just kidding.
What the hell, man?
It's so funny because
Billy's nurture, not nature.
Billy's like the Mexican Mennonite, but he's definitely very Slavic. If you look at Billy's feature, he does look like, I wouldn't even say German. I would say more Russian, right? Where I feel like I definitely got Irish Romanian blood, and I know I'm Scottish, and I feel like I do have Irish in my blood. But you can definitely, I don't know, there's certain features. But I've said you look like you're a Viking type guy. You know what Nordic. I mean? Because Nordic, like a big strapping dude, you got the big beard going, right? So you can see it where Billy's tall, and I feel like a lot of Russians kind of look like that. But I don't know. Chelsea watches fucking 90 Day Fiance. I don't know if you know what that show is.
Yep.
And it's so ridiculous, and I know part of it's probably scripted, but while I'm researching all these crazy secret society stuff or all these crazy episodes we do, I do all this on my own, right? And then you guys get to be able to sit back, relax, and kind of get into these topics. And she was watching it, and I'm like, you don't see a lot of fat people in Russia. You
don't.
And I was like, I don't know,
it's because they're not allowed GMOs there.
Yeah,
they're not allowed deep fried foods either.
And yeah, which is to me, I was like, is that bad? I don't know. The idea that Russia has always been our enemy and I think is used as a scapegoat. And that's why I was going to I do all these videos of me. I think about something and then people were like, do you write this stuff down? And I'm like, no, I think about something. I'm like, this would be a good way to phrase it in a minute or a minute and a half so people can consume it quickly and think about it.
But the one thing I really like to put on Russia is they've never been conquered and they've always destroyed the evils in the world. Yeah. If you look at Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Hitler, and Russia's never really invaded anyone without reasonable cause.
I agree with that, and we'll get into that stuff. It will happen when we eventually talk about. I would love to talk about Rasputin.
That was an interesting man.
Yeah, he's like a mystic, and there's so many weird tales about him. And you ever seen the what's that movie? The Knights of this is gonna bug me. It's the Kingsman.
Oh, like the original Kingsman.
The movie. Did you see the newest
Yeah,
one?
I saw the new one where
He has
Rasputin was.
Rasputin's like an assassin guy. It's actually very funny.
Yeah.
Doesn't he do like a dance move thing, and it's like throwing knives. It's been a while since I saw it when it first came out, but I thought it was interesting that they added that archetype, that character into like the movie, because he's a fascinating character. I'd love to talk about. He loved vodka.
He used to eat cyanide in small doses, so he'd be immune to it.
Which is wild, because he always thought they were going to kill him. Yeah, we'll start to dive into some of that stuff. And that's there's some bizarre stuff going on in the world. And that's why I love talking about it. And then eventually we'll talk about like the whole that's why I want to get into the Khazarian mafia thing and the whole idea of like there's these groups that hide within other groups
or paint other groups as them, and then they go after them.
Yeah, and this idea of like even if you want to see who's in power, look to who you can't criticize. And if you have people that hide behind these groups of people that are not really them, so they don't even believe. Even like some of the Zionist people are not gonna like this, but like I'm just saying, just think about it. Is that they're not actually like Jewish. They don't really believe. If you look at some of these,
painted.
Like Netanyahu is a fucking war criminal, reptilian maniac, and then his own people hate him. So and David Eichmann talk about Netanyahu for like so long, and they got labeled he's anti-Semitic because he criticizes these like war criminals, these crazy people that indiscriminately bomb people for like no reason and to try to like eradicate certain people. And I don't know, it's if you have people that can hide behind a certain group of people that have been persecuted and use them as pawns so you can fulfill your agenda, I don't know. I truly believe that they do that stuff, because then you can't say anything about it and you get shut down.
Exactly.
Very weird. But I was just going to say quickly, I want to do a video, but like people were like, oh, this terrorism, fucking terrorism. I'm like, look to your own military in the United States and the people that are in power. Do you not think that leaving a country in a war-torn position is not terrorism? Do you think that what they did to Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran and all these other countries is not terrorism? And that's why it's funny that like this is why he's a leftist person. He's dead now, but I'm starting to get into Howard Zinn and reading his books and watching his talks, and he gets taught in schools now and stuff like that, which people don't like him and also do like him. He really criticized what the United States was doing, and he was a war veteran who then went and fought in war and talked to the soldier in one of his stories when he was like, I thought he's just fighting for the right thing, and the soldier was like, we're fighting an imperialist war. This is about who can conquer the other person, and that this is all about there's other things at work. And then so Howard Zinn started really criticizing the American government, and people didn't like that because they're all like, hoorah, I'm a patriot, I love my country, I'm fighting for my country, and then meanwhile they're just killing innocent people to gain ground and all that shit. And I just find it funny because then terrorism is war. War is terrorism. So and if you look at the definition of it, it's pretty much what it is, of the idea of like pushing your ideology on somebody else, and it is. I feel
like that's what it's always been.
I know. And they coined that term after like 9/11. Essentially, is like George Bush. Can you do a George Bush? Gotta get those terrorists.
Go get them terrorists.
Yeah, go right there. Right there. Guys doing whiskey and coke and shit. But like that's like people like look to your own government, your own military, and what they've done to people. You think that them leaving weapons in Afghanistan was a mistake? So that they could get pushed and given to Hamas and stuff like that. And
it's funny how you see like now Palestine has all these American weapons that are out of. Oh yeah. By the way, we left them in Afghanistan.
Or Ukraine sold them weapons too. People believe that. That's why I'm like always like, okay, so we know the American military funded the Taliban and Bin Laden and labeled them freedom fighters to fight against the Soviet Union, like they fight against the Soviets and fight against Russia. And then all of a sudden they flipped it and they're like, we need an enemy. And then the Bush family was very close with the Bin Laden family, and then until they needed to use them as a scapegoat for terrorism, then they used them, and then they funded Al Qaeda and ISIS, and now you don't think that they're funding Hamas too?
We need to get over there and get that heroin. I mean, oil. Yeah, oil.
They dubbed a fucking tape of Osama. The one where he's in a cave, it's dubbed. That's a more technique. They dubbed the tape of Osama, and he says so about And it's just funny. I can't remember the exact line, but Mao-Technique, that's why who really woke me up and what made me realize what was going on was people like Mao-Technique, where he's done a whole song about 9/11 and how it was orchestrated and how they used these people, and they saw Bin Laden on dialysis in 1995, and then when he was on the top 10 for the FBI. So it's like the most wanted terrorist or whatever. So it's, I don't know. I don't trust that. An excuse to, fight for your freedom and all that shit. And
your freedom's halfway across the world. Go get it.
That's what people are like. There's I can't remember his name. Sawyer knows of him, but I really like his stuff. I can't remember the dude's exact name, but he's like, you're so quick to stand with somebody across the world, but you won't stand for your neighbor. Or like, this is why I'm like, Canadians are all like, well, we need Pierre, we need a hero. And it's like, but you can't be a hero in your own life. You can't stand up for people. 80% of Canadians got vaccinated and shit like that, and just submitted to the will of like the government, right? But now they're like, want to be saved from this, and like, you guys couldn't even save yourselves.
No,
it's kind of sad. I know there's people that coerced and thought they're doing the right thing. I understand that. So let's end up getting into Albert Pike. This is what I really want to get into because it's very interesting. So we're just going to get into a quick thing of like, we're just going to discuss who Albert Pike was and then get into his predictions. So Albert Pike was born on December 29th, 1809 in Boston, and was the oldest of 6 children born to Benjamin and Sarah Andrews Pike. He studied at Harvard and later studied as a brigadier general in the Confederate Army. After the Civil War, Pike was found guilty of treason and jailed, only to be pardoned by his fellow Freemason president, Andrew Johnson. On April 22nd, 1866, who met with him the next day at the White House. And on June 20th, 1867, the Scottish Reich officials confirmed upon Johnson the 4th to the 32nd degree Freemason degrees. He later went to Boston and he dedicated a Masonic temple. Pike was said to be a genius, able to read and write in 6 different languages, although I cannot find any record of... 16. I said, what did I say, 6?
You said 6.
Okay, so 16 different languages, which is pretty wild. I can't even comprehend French, but I'd rather not learn it anyway. It's like, I hated learning French in school. Fuck those Frenchies. They want to be their own country. It's funny because like everything's becoming so censored on TikTok. Everything you say now, any comment is taken down for the littlest thing. So the Quebec always complains they want to be their own country. So let them. You know what I mean? Like the kick. And I just commented on this thing. I said kick them off to sea, and that was taken down. I was like, what did I say? And it's like, how did that get taken as that's bad, don't say that.
That's what they want.
Yeah, they didn't let them be their own thing. Me and Billy always joked about that. And like, I know there's listeners that are probably in Quebec. I know one guy that was like, he's like, oh, I love your show. I'm from Ottawa and I think Quebec is fucked. It's like, so like, I'm like, yeah, he's like, keep making fun of them. And I know there's people that get offended, but like, not all people in Quebec are bad. But if you go there, they don't really like people that speak English.
No.
You were just there, too.
I was just there like a month ago. They do not like us.
Yep. So
not one bit.
And that's why I always think it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, right? Like all of these people that are in power in Canada are all French. Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre, or whatever, Poilievre, whatever.
George St. Pierre, no.
No, but but even like, Jean Chrétien, and I know it, but it seems like all these politicians and all these people, these prime ministers of Canada, all seem to come from Quebec or have ties to the French. And then the French are still conquering more than you understand. They still have their fingers very deep into a lot of the colonialism that is happening on Earth and forcing people to adapt to their ideology or their language, and like they did the Haiti and a lot of other places that they took over and and made them adapt to their ways. But at the same time, then it's like the people I saw a comment were like, calling a white guy colonizer is like the N-word for black people. Because it's like the idea is like, I didn't fucking colonize shit. My grandparents didn't colonize shit. My parents didn't. My great-grandparents didn't. Who knows about Brett's family? But the idea of like that, people thought they were doing the right thing. But that's why I want to get into the residential schools and stuff like that. Because forcing anyone to believe in your ideology is not right. Live and let live is how we should run the world. So it is interesting. He's very smart. He he, at various stages of his life, was a poet, a philosopher, a frontiersman, a soldier, a humanitarian, a philanthropist. Sounds like a old Gatesy boy, except for Gates would not be able to withstand going into war, fighting for anything.
It's funny listening to that philanthropist. It's like full on rape.
It is, yeah. Which, especially if we're talking about Gates, the biggest philanthropist of all, full on rape. he loved his buddy, man, Jeffrey. Him, hanging out all the time, just having wild parties. So a 33rd degree Mason. Of the founding fathers and the head of the ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, being the grand commander of the North American Freemasonry from 1859 and retained his position until his death in 1891. And get this, in 1869, he was the top leader in the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oof.
And they also, the Ku Klux Klan is also connected to Freemasonry, and we'll eventually get into an episode about the Ku Klux Klan.
We will. Well, we'll continue though.
I think it would be interesting. Pike said to be a Satanist who indulged in the occult, and who apparently possessed a bracelet which he could use to summon Lucifer, like some Constantine shit, he had constant communication with. Now, who knows about that at all? He was a grand master of the Luciferian group known as the Order of the Palladium, or the Sovereign Council of Wisdom, which was founded in Paris in 1737. This was brought from Greece, from Egypt by Pythagoras, which eventually we'll do an episode about him. Juan's all about Pythagoras, in the 5th century. And this was the cult of Satan that was introduced in the inner circles of the Masonic Lodge, and it was aligned with the Palladium of the Templars. In the 1801, Isaac Long, a Jew, brought a statue of Baphomet, Satan, to Charleston, South Carolina, where he helped establish the ancient and accepted Scottish rite. Long apparently chose Charleston because its geographical location, and it was 33 parallels of latitude. Incidentally, so is Baghdad, which is kind of weird. And this council is considered to be the Mother Supreme Council of all Masonic lodges in the world in Charleston. So whatever, fuck that guy's name. So this is where we're going to get into it very shortly together. With Manzini, the Lord Henry Palmer of England, and Otto von Bursmick from Germany. Albert Pike intended to use his Palladian rite to create the satanic umbrella group that would tie all Mason groups together. Albert Pike died on April 2nd, 1891, and was buried in Oak Hill Cemetery, although his corpse of Pike currently lies at the headquarters of the Council of the 33 Degree Mason Scottish Rite in Washington. Right, not Reich. So if you want to know more about that, I guess, The Deadly Deception by Jim Shaw, who was a former 33 Degree Mason and past master of all the Scottish rites. So I just want to get into this to have people understand kind of the connection to Giuseppe Marzini, which was the 33rd degree Mason that supposedly headed the Illuminati organizations worldwide. So he was like connected to all this stuff. And because Marzini's revolutionary activities in Europe and Bulgarian government cracked down on the Illuminati and other secret societies for allegedly plotting a massive overthrow of the European monarchies, as the secrets of the Illuminati were revealed, they were prosecuted and eventually disbanded. So they did have enemies, and obviously this is why they started learning how to infiltrate themselves into other organizations and to like do it, a tiptoe, tiptoe to totalitarianism. It's hard to say, but like essentially that's what they kind of wanted, is to like infiltrate all these different organizations, right? And like, because once you learn, right, about that, you have to kind of say secret and you can't expose too much of what's going on, right? So Albert Pike and Giuseppe Manzini were very close, and so since Manzini also wanted Pike to head the Illuminati's American chapter, he clearly felt that Pike was worthy of such a task. So they kind of became friends, and Manzini's intention was, once as a Mason he made up his way through the Masonic ladder and proven himself worthy in the highest ranks of members, would offer membership membership to the secret societies within the society. So let's just bring it, because there's a lot of information to break down when it comes to the idea of what they were doing and how they were doing this. So let's get into the idea of where this all comes from, of the Albert Pike's prediction into the 3 world wars, okay?
Right.
So get this. So the following letter, that is speculation, claims that Albert Pike wrote Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving 3 world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. And this is in 1871. Okay? Really weird. The Pike's letter to Giuseppe Mazzini was displayed in a British museum in London until 1977, where obviously they were like, some Freemason was like, we should probably
get rid of that.
Keep a secret. Check this out. The First World War must be brought about in order to permeate the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergency caused by the agentura, which agents of the Illuminati, so we'll just say agents of the Illuminati, between the British and the Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments in order to weaken the religions. Pretty interesting, because you see the way that World War I played out.
Yeah.
Right? And the whole what happened to Russia. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the the Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between fascists and political Zionists. This war must be brought about so Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign nation state of Israel in Palestine. This is in 1871, dude. Isn't that bizarre?
That is.
During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which is Christianity and stuff like that, because obviously, I think about the forefathers, and they were all Masons, so I don't trust people who are like, well, they gave us these, the Declaration of Independence, and I don't know, I think there's something shady about all that stuff. The amendments are good, right? Especially the freedom of speech, and because people believe that at the beginning that the Freemasons were like, they could have been good. They were trying to fight against the encroaching government, right? So,
sorry, going back to the story.
Yeah.
So you think Hitler was selected as a? Sorry. Do you think Hitler was selected as this person to uprise fascism?
Yeah, 100%. I do think that they used him. I think that he believed that he was fighting for something just and right, just like everybody else does. And I think that they used him and manipulated him. He was just a hurt boy. He just wanted to be a painter, and then they used him in his anger and his ability to speak. And that's why if you watch some of the stuff, which is interesting, is How to Become a Tyrant on Netflix, which you can tell is definitely before the pandemic. And it talks about how he saw these people speaking at this, in a bar, I think it was. And then he went to the stage and he spoke out and started yelling, and people started listening to him. And, he's a nationalist about, Germany, becoming strong again. And people, latched onto that message. And I think he was manipulated and used. And there's people that think that he was possessed by some dark force, but they definitely used him there because they know the United States and people within the United States and Masons funded him to become powerful as he was, and they didn't get all that weaponry and the means to be able to attack the way they did, one country attacking all these other countries. They just didn't get that money on their own. The Rothschilds helped sponsor him and stuff like that, right? And that's, I don't know, it's very shady and sketchy.
But anyway, continue.
Yes. Pretty crazy. And then, which then would restrain and held in check until the time when they would need it for the final social cataclysm. Now, everybody, think about what's going on right now. And I heard about this a long time ago. David Icke used to talk about this letter and the fact of when it was written. So the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, it's funny how people say the Muslim, the Muslim Arabic world and the political Zionism, the state of Israel, must destroy each other. And you think about what's going on now, they must be used to destroy each other. Pretty interesting, eh? Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, and spiritual and economical exhaustion. Economic exhaustion. So like the idea of like that, and you see it right now, everyone's fighting. There's huge protests for pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, and people can say what they want. Yes, people have been radicalized on both sides, and I really do believe that. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke formidable social cataclysm, which in all is a horror which will show clearly to the nations the effects of the absolute atheism, origins of the savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. It is so crazy. Then everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries and will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude of the disillusioned with Christianity. Those who are Dionistic spirits will form the moment Jesus Christ, sorry. Who's their Dionistic spirits will from the moment be without compass or direction. So to break it down, because obviously this is written in 1871, they're saying that they will use people to destroy religions and have this idea that like they want atheists, to take over and to people to let go of religion so they can bring in the one world government is the whole idea. So these people will not have a compass or direction of where to go because they will be consumed by that system.
Right.
Makes sense? So an anxious for an ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out to the public view. So as soon as the dust settles and supposedly Israel and Palestine destroy each other equally, then they can finally bring the Luciferian order out in the open and show everybody, finally put it all in.
Now, this is the way of peace of some sort, yeah.
Yeah. And the manifestation will result from the general the reactionary moment, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So they use both sides to destroy Christianity and also Judaism and also
all religions
to destroy it all so they can bring in the New World Order and have everyone adopt to,
as long as it means somewhere to sleep, food and water, they don't care.
No, they're gonna make people so desperate. And the idea, right, is the next generation, if they don't realize what is actually going on, and they can if they can brainwash and radicalize the next generation, and if you see this out of especially the more leftist, but there's a lot more kids growing up that are atheist and don't believe in anything, and they believe in the physical world, and that's why I try to show people what's going on and say that, like, I'm not religious and I have friends that are religious, right? But I'm very spiritual, and I understand that there is something greater than this, and there could be a God that thought reality into creation or some sort of divine force. I do think that is very possible. But a lot of kids don't know what to believe in. There's a lot of youth that don't know what to believe in, and they're so stuck in this physical world. And if you go listen to the episode that we did about the reptilians with Juan, is that we talked very in depth about the whole idea is that they're consumed by the physical world, and they're like addicted to it. you know?
Well, they're misled by it more or
Yeah,
less.
pretty trippy. Like, I wanted to get into this because I thought it was really interesting considering what was going on. Yes, it was kind of a little dry in some points, and like, yeah, this was a lot of the information I took this from was written a long time ago by Freemasons. So you know, I'm gonna, and it's pretty early considering how late we usually do episodes. I decided let's get up, let's record. And let's have some coffee and enjoy ourselves and stuff like that. But I hope everyone enjoyed this episode because there is a lot more to come. And I'm really going to dive pretty deep into this stuff and really read through it so I have a great understanding of what's going on. But it's pretty interesting, eh? What do you think? Pretty weird how you predicted.
It is pretty weird how everything, how the first part's already played out. Who's to say the second part's not? And if it actually does happen, then, jeez.
I know, and that's what's crazy is this was written, and that's the idea of that, like, even David Icke was talking about this recently, and I know I brought him up because I feel like he is able to see things from the outside, and people can say he could be, you know, controlled opposition. I don't know, I doubt it by the way he talks about every side, that he criticizes every side, and even...
He's the South Park of his day.
Yeah, exactly, and realizes kind of what's going on. But he said, he's like, you know, that they're trying to control everything, and I don't know, they're doing it right out in the open, and that people are going to be so consumed like fighting each other. Mm-hmm. And it is interesting that this was written. He's always like, and people are like, how did you predict the future? How did you know this stuff was going to happen? And he's like, because I researched, and they were writing it down. These are not predictions. These are a guidebook that he's read through the Masonic era, the Illuminati or whatever. These guides that they're telling you out in the open. And that's why I always say to people,
that's part of the religion too. They have to tell you what's going to happen before they do it.
That's
if you don't react, then they have every right to do it.
That's why I've said that, where it's like a karmatic agreement, I believe, beyond this physical form, is that, you know, if they tell you out in the open and you go to the World Economic Forum website or the UN, which is both terrorist organizations, and they tell you out in the open that they're going to do A, B, and C, and then you don't do anything about it, they're already putting it out in the open, and if your silence is compliance. Yeah. And that's why I say people need to speak out and especially push against this this whole control of information and stuff. And we do hope people really enjoy these episodes because there's going to be some very fun, hilarious content that we produce. We always do fun stuff like that. But I'm going to start sneaking in some very in-depth conversations about some of these, going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like I want to do the Karzarian Mafia episode, and I know people might get a little upset about how it is talking about what most people can't talk about. You're not, like I said, who you can't criticize probably is in control.
Exactly.
You have any thoughts? Pretty weird, eh? He predicted in
it is
1871, and if this,
the only thing we can do is wait and watch.
Not even that. I do think that we can change the outcome. Don't let these people fulfill their doomsday prophecies. Right?
All right.
Let's speak out. Let's rise up. That's why that's what I want to end it on this. Like, that's why I call it both sides of political parties. And then people get mad. And it's like, well, we need someone to save us. Save yourselves, everybody. Be the hero that you want to be. All right. Everybody love everybody. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff on Patreon. That's the best way to support us. I don't show this out as often, but definitely there's the 2 merch sites that we have up where you can buy a cool shirt. You can't really see it, but I have my Raptilian shirt on, which my lizard guy with his tinfoil hat on. So go check out that because that's a fun T-shirt to rep and have some conversations. But we have a lot of stuff coming. There's going to be a lot of stuff heading into the winter and all that stuff. And,
remember, take nothing serious.
Take nothing seriously. Nothing I said should be taken as serious. Everything is
just food for thought.
Yeah, it's just food for thought, right? So everybody love everybody and stop picking sides in a war that kills innocent people. Auf Wiedersehen.